Hello guys, welcome to Analog IAS Current Affairs Analysis for 2nd April 2020, and these are the articles we'll be dealing today. The first article for the day is taken from the Hindu and it is titled Thinking National, Acting Local. So the central point that this article is trying to say is we have to rethink our national planning systems in such a way that the problems are solved locally. To put it in simple words, the author of this article is trying to say that institutions which are strong enough at grassroots levels will be the most effective way to handle any sort of crisis. When we talk about constitutional challenge, we have to ensure that whatever is the central planning body, whether it is Niti Aayog or Planning Commission, Niti Aayog, or whatever name it is given, it should not be disrupted with the politics of the day. Say for example, if one sort of a government came up with a developmental plan which is approved by the national planning body, and later the government changes due to any sort of political activities, there will be a disruption in our planning activities and implementation of the program. So this has been the trend for a lot of time. If you compare the planning in China, China does not have this kind of a problem. There are no short-term plans in China despite change in regimes. Probably that has a lot to do with the way government is run there, and most of the democracies suffer with this same kind of problem where politics of the day change the course of human development and the idea of development in total. There is a section of the thinkers which believe that Niti Aayog does not have enough powers to enforce their planning methodologies and plans into action, and that is why we don't see long-term plans taking a fruitful logical conclusion. However, the critics of this particular institution forget the fact that Planning Commission had all sorts of power, yet we have been very ineffective in bringing about all-round progress. So what this author actually proposes is we need to have a body which has a power to allocate public money, and it must be supervised by elected representatives. So what we are actually trying to say is a body like Niti Aayog or a planning commission should have the powers to allocate money, and this body should be in a position to be accountable for the parliament. They should actually be manned by elected representatives as well. So this particular planning body must try to address its relationship between, we are living in a world where the center and states must act together to face all sorts of challenges. Say in the present crisis of COVID-19, let us have a look at the role of the states. It is the states that should actually enforce all the health related activities, and the center can at max play a coordinating role. In general, states are expected to deliver on human development indicators like say better health, education and imparting skills. So when states actually invest on these factors, we will be having a strong social base. Till now, the role of Finance Commission has been just to consider how to devolve funds from center to the states. So the reason why Finance Commission could not be a successful national planning body is because it is limited in its competence. We need capacity building with respect to Finance Commission to ensure that all the local level needs are addressed by Finance Commission. So far, Finance Commission has seen limited success in ensuring that different geographies has different sort of allotment with respect to funds. The priorities of different states are different. Even though a broad level of environmental and social conditions are taken into consideration, say in the form of forest cover, their ability to address demography issues, is very limited in its prospect. At this point of time, if you don't understand what are the terms of reference of Finance Commission, please pause the video and have a look at them. For a long time, we have been talking about competence, and it is in this context we have to understand why global value chains are not really a great idea. If you take a look at the global value chains, it is majorly focused upon China, and because of the present COVID-19 crisis, not only did the disease spread to all the countries from China, Secondly, there has been also a situation where the rest of the countries are not able to produce enough goods without depending upon imports from China. So a single weak link in the entire chain has disrupted the entire global economy. This is not an ideal solution. We have to develop local capacities, and we have to ensure that these local clusters become self-sufficient first, and rather than depending upon different countries, we have to ensure that these local level solutions are looked at first. We don't want a single country to be acting as the factory of the world. We need small clusters which are self-sufficient and can address their own issues locally. That is the gist of this article. The next article of the day is taken from the Live Mint, and it is titled COVID-19 will topple our paradigm of economic value. This article is about how we have to focus on our public health infrastructure. The present COVID-19 crisis has shown us that unless and until we have a proper primary healthcare facilities, our health systems will be overwhelmed when crisis like this hits us. The central premise of this article is about how we are misallocating our resources. Say for example, you have an online pharmacy store. All this startup is doing is, it is taking medicines from the local pharmacy and it is delivering to you at a very low rate. Now the problem is not with the startup but the valuation of the startup. A huge amount of money is being invested into these startups, and economies of scale are envisioned to ensure that these slow asset startups are finally converted into profit making entities by angel investors and the promoters of these particular companies. Now this is not the problem. The larger problem is when these investors prefer to invest in an online pharmacy store rather than the company that is actually manufacturing these drugs. One of the largest problems that our companies, especially in the pharmacy sector, face is lack of funds for research and development. We don't see a lot of companies investing in R&D because that would take a lot of time. All the investors want to make some quick bucks and they prefer to invest in companies like these to ensure that they have profits. Now, a crisis like COVID-19 shows us that our priorities are misplaced. We have to ensure that large companies which focus on our business fundamentals get the right kind of respect and money they deserve. Take the present case, we don't have enough number of hazmat suits or safety gear for our medical professionals, and we don't have even proper facilities for our patients. We are severely short of ventilators, and car manufacturing companies like Maruti Suzuki are associating with some startups to ensure that they ramp up production. So why do we have to wait for this sort of a crisis? Why are our economic priorities misplaced? That is the question that is raised by this article writer. It is only after a crisis like COVID-19 that India decided to join the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, which is a global alliance that finances and coordinates the development of vaccines. India should try to increase funding for all such kind of initiatives in the future as well. India needs strong public health infrastructure not only to respond to these kind of crises but also to address issues like chronic illnesses, controlling infectious disease, or probably even advanced technologies like predictive models that can ensure that we have first-hand information about disease outbreaks, and also enhancing the capacity of the frontline health workers. So this disease is like a wake-up call for our health system, and investors must ensure that the economic value they put on a particular business should not be misplaced by their short-term benefit of profit, but rather than that they should also focus on adding value to the society as well. We have to focus on our business fundamentals. That is the gist of this article.